If you had 24 hours with me and I couldn't say no, what would we do?
No, I really appreciate you coming in. We're short-handed as fuck. It's not even funny. Man, it's gonna be a long-ass night. You're gonna have to put a shirt on, and there's Best right over there.
Okay.
It sounded Korean.
That sounded Korean.
Yeah, what the hell was it?
You'll never have a white girl. Please go ER.
What's go ER?
That's go Elliot Roger. It means go. It means take out your vengeance on society.
Nice, I like that. So listen, Face, is that what I should?
Yes.
Do I call you Face or do I call you LMS?
Face.
Okay, very good. So last time we chatted, it was me, you, First, Sandman, and I am.
Oh yeah.
All right, I've never done a chat with you, but me.
Shoot me!
Sorry.
Dead.
I was I was looking because I've got my keys assigned to certain things. I was looking for something. Sorry. I'll make sure not to press any buttons. Sorry.
Play them all. Let me hear them.
Oh gosh, I got so many. All right, so I got
Go ER. You'll never have a white girl. Please go ER.
Is bullshit.
What? Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? I apologize. I'm a loser, baby.
I think there's one here.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You go to hell. You go to hell and you die.
All right.
Childhood. Such a sweet sexual time.
The American people are tired of women.
It only gets worse.
Son of a bitch.
Shoot me! I wish I were dead.
We're running late.
I think that's all of them. Oh wait, is there one more? This one. That one? No. That one? Nope. That one? No. That one? Yep. That one?
Gosh.
All right. Yeah, I think that's all of them. Any? Yeah.
Need to get something like that.
Yeah, I'm running out. I don't have any. I can't press any keys that aren't. I've got very few keys that aren't assigned to sound effects unless I close the sound effects app down. So I'm going to stop typing. I'm not going to type anything.
What are you still? Have you been banned on YouTube yet?
No. Luckily,
Oh, that's
no.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
We lost. My channel went down
Really?
over a year ago.
What the hell? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
What did you
say though?
We were talking about China and coronavirus when it first happened, and they took our channel down pretty quick. And
So
it's been
they're supposed to give you like a warning and stuff, right?
not always the case. So I rebuilt the channel. I'm pretty much back to where we were, but I lost my co-host in the process. He got sick and tired of the whole, basically everything that's ongoing, the social engineering, the talk of the manosphere. He has a small business, and he has his own thing going on. So we parted ways. I started doing work with Sandman, which has been a blessing, and I started doing some writing, and it's been pretty good. And fortunately, every person I've reached out to come on the MGTOW chat series has been welcoming and coming on. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come join me and having this chat. Now, personally, I was subscribed to you when you first started. Oh, it was a while ago. I think it was like 4 or 5 years now you've had a channel, if I stand corrected.
Longer than that, like about 7 years, 8 years, something like that.
Yeah, really, and I was in Southeast Asia when I first found your channel, and a buddy of mine who was much older than me introduced your channel to me, and I was subscribed for a while, and then I kind of unsubscribed because I don't know, because you talk a lot about the look maxing and the whole concept of looks maxing. I agree with, and part of it I don't necessarily agree with, and we can talk about that. But I found your work to be quite fascinating. You've become very popular within the manosphere. A lot of people don't like you. You are hated by some of the people. Yeah, it's crazy. I know you did a chat with
who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Was it Raul Tumpsy or some shit?
Oh, Raul Tomasi. I don't think he hates me. He just believes I'm misleading men because I talk about, looks, and he obviously it goes against. We should talk about this on stream, so I'll stop.
No. Let's get into it now. Go on.
We basically, for his business model depends on people not listening to me. So of course he's not going to he won't look upon me favorably because anyone who listens to me is going to be less likely to listen to him.
Correct. Yeah. And he does this for a living, so which you don't, neither do I.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that changes kind of the whole premise in the ball game. And you coined the term look maxing, and from there, many other people.
Someone else did, but I was in that same community. I was on PUA hate, and I can't remember who exactly coined it, but we came up with a bunch of acronyms and jargon. I think one of the things I coined was PSL, is what you might hear, which is PUA hate, slut hate, lookism, which it's a definition of at the core it just means those three websites that gave birth to the black pill. But you'll hear it used more frequently as in what's his PSL. That means what would he be rated as on those three websites. What would he be rated by? What would he be rated as a by black pillars? So yeah, I've coined that. I've coined a few other things. I've talked about the Overton window of dating, because I don't think anyone ever applied the Overton window to the sexual market place, right, and stuff like that. I've coined a few things, or like a few other things. I can't remember. People tell me stuff, and I'm like, oh, I remember that because I said that. But yeah.
How did you wind up in the manosphere exactly? What made you start creating the content that you make?
No one was saying it, basically. So I thought it needs to be said. It needs to be put in a way that has more reach than some dark internet. Sorry, my headphones fell off.
No worries.
It needs to be said on somewhere that has a bigger platform than not just some creepy, cold, dark website on the corner of the internet. So I thought, okay, YouTube channel.
Yeah, and you obviously gained a lot of traction with your videos and your theories on look maxing, where it seemed now I agree with the whole concept of looks maxing. I do think looks play a huge part, but not the end all, the be all. And I think one has to have, I do think one has to have a bit of a kaleidoscopic view when it comes to the ongoing, schism between men and women, especially in the West. And for people such as ourselves living in such large cities, there's so many more men for women to choose from versus if you live in the countryside. Now, you obviously focus more on the looks, and I think that's a really interesting take. And you seem to hone in mostly on that. You don't really venture off from your own personal theories. You'll talk about other things here and there, but you seem to be much more of an expert when it comes to the concept of looks being an important role in the dating scene.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Are we recording?
Yep.
Oh shit!
That
you didn't give us any introduction. Okay.
Well, right. You did the little your push buttons, your soundboard thing. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So, all right.
So like I said, I found you a long time ago. I subscribed at some point when I moved back to the United States. I unsubscribed for one reason or another. You, Sandman, and I am did a chat about 8 months ago, roughly, and me and you have been having side conversations here and there. I know you have a lot of things going on in your personal life, so have I. But the past year, I don't know what it's like in England right now. I know it's probably the situation's much worse regarding the whole situation with lockdowns and the ongoing, the reset, as I say. All these things that have impacted men have been somewhat exasperated. And the lockdowns, COVID, people losing their jobs, et cetera, have been somewhat of an accelerant. And more people such as yourself have become much more prevalent and important, much more important for people to listen to. And that's my humble opinion.
Oh yes, I had a lot of comments to talk about on, or a stupid way to phrase that. I had something to say as regards the lockdown and the effect it has had on incel men below a 5 out of 10 in looks, or short men. Well, let's break it down. Since the lockdowns began in 2020, I think they began around March.
Yep, March.
Women have not had to be exposed to ugly men quite so much, because obviously they haven't been to nightclubs, they haven't been out to bars and pubs. So the only men, they haven't even been to like college and school and like work that much. So the only interaction with men they've had has been on Tinder with the men they choose, with the men they want in their lives. So they've had like a full year of like validation from the best men, the most worthy men, the best looking men, the tallest, the most, the men of the race they prefer, the men with the hair they prefer. Like they've had like the ability to curate the men who get access to them. And so that year will probably have like a huge impact on how they behave coming out of lockdown, because not having to deal with creepy, ugly men, who are not necessarily creepy, I just mean in their eyes is creepy. Not having to deal with creepy men for a whole year and being thrust back out to, look at a man who doesn't have high cheekbones, or, has the gall to be 5'7".
Bold.
Yeah, how dare you? They're going to be like way more creeped out than they would have been before lockdown. They're going to be way more offended. They're going to be way more offended if a man who's not good looking approaches them, because they've had a year of like none of these subhumans coming up to them. So like you come up to, you approach a woman now in 2021, post or the end of 2021, post lockdown, they're going to be like, why do I spent a whole year without the likes of your kind. Why do I want to deal with you now? Like, it's even more of an insult. So I predict that women are going to be even more vicious in their rejections. They're going to be even more hypergamous in their standards. And you may, whichever graph you see that shows, the rate of male inceldom rising steadily, you might see some kind of not blip, but you might see a slight sharp increase. It may not be this year. It may be like, it may take time to register on a graph, but you might see some kind of, you might see it reflected in culture, on a graph, in modern culture or something, that women have gotten even harder to speak to than they were before lockdown.
Well, I find it to be somewhat of ego preservation, especially with Western women. Now, I can't say for the likes of other races or whatever, but it seems to be mainly focused on the Anglo-West and Western women as a whole, if you want to lump Eastern women into this category. But because of the lockdown, it's forced not just the Anglosphere, but the world to be nudged into using these dating platforms. And when I speak with First, he seems to hark back on quite often about how that these dating platforms are free. So the bar is set relatively low versus, a website where you may have to pay $30 a month or something like that. But I've made a
Yeah,
point
the
that
bar is on the floor. The
right,
bar is
exactly.
literally on the floor. Yeah,
It's on the floor.
for
So,
women.
but here's the thing. So Binge, Tinder, Plenty of Fat, POF, Plenty of Fish, Bumble. Yeah. I think I said Bumble.
Yeah.
I think Match.com. They're all owned by one
Unmatched.com.
multinational.
Yeah.
They're all owned by one multinational corporation, and I personally am under the notion. I'm under the.
I saw sorry to interrupt. I
No,
saw
go
like
on.
an article that said that it showed who owns most of who owns the apps, and like a surprising number of apps are owned by the same company or the same people. And you're like, why would you put why would you split your um energies between so many different markets? Like but I guess they're just like I guess the commodity is the male sex drive. So you could just, yeah, men are desperate. So I
Well,
guess
I don't think most men, blue pill men, don't do the research and realizing that they're all owned by the same multinational corporation. We know that. I think
yeah,
many of our listeners know that, but the average, normie con, the blue pill, he doesn't do his research. He doesn't realize that perhaps maybe they're engaging in some type of malevolent behavior, or they're doing something that's nefarious, let us say. So I do for the last maybe year or two, I've been under the notion, and I have no proof of this, and I've tried looking this up, that they're kind of exasperating the incel problem, where maybe if guys swipe 20 times a day, they'll push them at the bottom of the barrel and match with women who have not activated their accounts in golly knows how long. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people, men and women, don't activate their accounts. They'll sign up and they'll use it for maybe a month or two. They'll find someone, delete the app, but their picture and their profile is still circulating on those those apps. So I'm
yeah.
starting to realize that
Don't
perhaps might be something. Go on.
Yeah, women for starters, there are like fewer women on the apps than men, and then like I'm pretty sure they keep the female accounts going, at least in terms of like when you do discoverability of profiles, they'll keep the profile there or something. Pardon. Um, just to keep, just to give men the impression that there are like way more women there than
A
they think.
cornucopia of choices.
Yes. And then um the fact is a lot of women on these apps aren't even on there for dating anymore. Like I guess maybe 5 years ago, you could kind of say, well, hey, if a woman's on an app, like that's, hey, I have a chance, small though it may be, I have a chance. But today, like a lot of women are on apps just for like for validation. They're just on it to just be told they look good and just to be able to reject men. Or you have the women on apps who are like single moms and they're on there just for like a baby daddy or something, like a father to their children. You've seen those profiles. My kids are my world, they come first.
Or their doggies.
Oh yeah, doggo.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Going back to what you said about the deactivating the accounts and reactivating it. Now, I deleted Tinder for a couple of years, and then I reactivated it, and I had quite a few matches. which means
No,
that
don't react to it.
which means that my account was still not my account, but my profile was still floating out there. And what I found interesting was prior to the lockdown, I would get matches here and there. Not many. I'm not going to sit here. I'm part of the 20%. By all means, I don't want anybody to put words in my mouth, but I used to get matches, and then during the lockdown, I got absolutely no matches.
You're quite normal looking.
I'm a
Look,
normal, yeah.
that's your picture on your profile there, on your Skype profile, yeah?
That's correct.
You're pretty normy looking. I would not class you as an incel. So you would get a few matches here and there, you know, a few, mostly flakes probably, and some overweight women, some women who aren't too attractive facially. But
wall hitters. I get a lot of wall hitters.
All right. Yeah. That makes sense. So, like
your
experience would be like 100% different from mine. Like my Tinder, when I had it, is basically a dead app. It's basically why is it still installed? It's doing nothing on my phone.
Yeah, like I was saying, like once COVID hit, once COVID hit, my matches completely dried up, and to the point where I wound up deleting it. And I tend to use Tinder when I did have Tinder, the past couple of years. The only reason why I was using it was more for a social experiment. Like I would change up my profile picture and see if that makes a difference, or I would use someone else's photo and see if that perhaps, again, being in this side, on this side of the Great Divide and talking, MGTOW, I would do that for more or less shits and giggles.
Why do you think your profile became less popular during COVID? Do you think there's any weight to my theory that women became more hypergamous during COVID because they were curating the men who could speak to them? Or do you think there's another theory why
I will say that's part of it, and the other part is more men jumped onto these apps being stuck inside their homes.
100%. In fact, yeah, very good. Yeah.
So now you just drowned. Now you're drowned out. So if I were to hop back onto Tinder, I would be, getting fucking dreadnoughts, juggernauts. It would be an absolute fucking dumpster fire. And being somewhat, normal looking, you see what you're matching with, and you start wondering, is that the best I can do? And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for a lot of guys in the manosphere, especially with the guys that are incel. When it comes to the incel problem, I see it's more correlated with men under the age of 30. I'm 33. I reckon you're roughly my age, a little bit older. So for us, we have a foot in the old world and a foot in the new world. We remember what dating was like prior to social media, and now we see what's happening after social media, and now you're getting this whole rise of the incel, and guys are becoming somewhat radicalized, being stuck in somewhat of an echo chamber, which I don't necessarily find to be too healthy, because I see what some guys say, and I'm like, hey, you gotta relax, man. Unfortunately, for a lot of
exactly.
Just building. Yeah, go on.
2 points. One, you raised a really good point that a lot of men jumped onto online dating because of COVID. Now, those men won't leave online dating when the lockdowns raise or lift. So what this lockdown has done has forced the men who were not contemplating going on to online dating to go onto it. They'll see it as easier, like, hey, I could quote unquote approach 100 women in a night versus going to a nightclub where I approach like 10. So like they'll see it as like some kind of plus. So they're not going anywhere. They're staying on social media and online dating. So it has had the effect of bringing more men into an already crowded market.
Yep.
So like things are going to get way worse now because you've just made it more of a sausage fest. Number two, You said, what did you say? You said something. You said some words in the English language. I forgot, like I'm blanking. Never mind,
It's all
carry on.
right. No, it's definitely accelerated a lot of these problems. I make a good point. I always bring this up on my channel that 20 years ago, if you were using dating apps or using these platforms that are online, again, 20 years ago, we didn't have apps, but if you're using something like eHarmony, Match.com, or Plenty of Fish, which were kind of the forerunners of online dating, your family and friends would think you're an absolute weirdo. Like you can't
Yes,
find
exactly.
someone out in public,
It
like
was
someone at work or whatever.
it was taboo. Like when your computer was like beige, and your screen was like a huge box. Um, yeah, the internet was. You could argue the internet was more male oriented because it didn't feel like it didn't feel like many women were on the internet back then. Like it felt like it was just you and this was a time when you were so naive that you would open your Internet Explorer browser and browse the favorites, the default favorites, and you'd be like, "Hey, I get to view MSNBC or some shit." So yeah, I had that phase.
There were chat rooms on AOL. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
chat
remember
rooms,
that.
ICQ. I came in as ICQ was just dying. I don't even think I actually used it, but I think I used it maybe once, but it was dying out. Um, like I caught like the tail end of a lot of the early internet, and it didn't seem like women were really interested in it. So, um, yeah,
Well, here for the
that was
women
like
that were for the women that were on the internet at that time, they were out looking for a guy to date, marry, or screw. Today, it's women looking for filling their narcissistic validation. So if you do match with someone on Tinder or Bumble or whatever, they would redirect you to following them on Instagram. So the more followers they have on Instagram, it kind of feeds their narcissistic supply, I want to say, their attention deficits and things like that. So then from there, they're competing with other women on look how many guys are following me. Well, I got 10,000 guys following me. Well, I got 11,000, so on and so forth. And that's what I see now is that it's similar to men making YouTube channels where you're always checking how many views you have. Did this video work? Did I have this conversation? And that gained a lot of views. For women, it's become the image. So, let me show a little cleavage. Let me see how many likes I get now. Well, now I'm wearing, panties. Look how many more likes and comments I got on that versus, some plain Jane who is just dressed in, like a nightgown or whatever, not showing any skin. She's not necessarily going to get nearly as much attention or comments and likes.
yeah. A point you alluded to at the beginning of what you said. Yeah, when I was like first on the internet, I was really young, so I wasn't looking at online dating sites at all. I was more looking at like, I don't know, music or something. But um, I imagine back in the like early days of the internet, women were a lot more grateful to just be speaking to someone on online dating. So the the bar was a lot lower because obviously fewer men on the internet, fewer um or the expectation of what a woman wanted was like lower. It was just more like a connection, like, hey, let me just speak to this guy, let me just see what he's about. So probably even in the early days of the internet, it was probably still not as bad as now. Like obviously men have never had it like amazing. We've always been like competing against each other for women, but I think maybe in the early days of the internet there was probably like
It was a small window of opportunity.
yeah, there was a chance of getting a woman, but yeah, that fell by the wayside like real quickly. Like when like you felt the presence of women on the internet. By the time you felt the presence of women on the internet, it became like a foregone conclusion that you're not going to find a woman by this avenue. Like it's
Correct.
just too hard, too competitive.
I remember back in 2002, 2003, I was about 14, 15 years old, and I would play first-person shooters, and we would have like a clan where, this clan would versus that clan playing the first-person shooter, and there was always maybe like 2 or 3 women that would play with us, and we didn't know what they looked like, and, after a year, being in the chat rooms, conversations about the battle, what map we're going to use, whatever, getting to know each other, where you live, so on and so forth. Eventually, the guys are like, we want to know what you women look like. Like, show us your photos. One of them turned out to be absolutely stunningly gorgeous. And she had the hots for this one guy. She didn't know what this guy looked like. And they were talking forever. It just, conversations over the phone, writing letters, sending gifts back and forth through the mail. And eventually the two of them met, and he turned out to be hideous. And she told me, and they live states away. They live like 12 hours by car away from each other.
I knew that was coming.
It was coming, right? And this guy absolutely fell in love with her, and she wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. So despite their time, the amount of hours, energy, and effort this guy put into this online relationship, not knowing what he looked like, as soon as they met in person, she was like a 9 or a 10, and he was about maybe a 3.5. It was brutal. Just brutal. Just talk about look maxing. I mean, this girl just took a fucking sledgehammer to his hopes and dreams. I always thought that was funny. So despite being charismatic, funny, charming, the amount of attention, adulation this
wow,
gives to her, gone. And this is, mind you, this is over 15 years ago.
Exactly. So that was how, like, that speaks to the biological reality of looks. It's not just a cultural thing, because there is this kind of movement in the black pill community, like from the new age black pillars, who think that, okay, looks kind of matter to women, but it's mostly a cultural phenomenon. It's mostly culturally influenced. Women wouldn't be, and I get it, it's somewhat culturally influenced, but here we have an example of like 15 years ago, before like social media, before online dating really blew up, back when women were like as pure as they could be, with given the internet existing, you have the opportunity for a woman to get to know a man's personality, get to know his
what he likes, what he's about, what does he enjoy, what's his thoughts, his philosophy on life.
To get time with him, like I think that's like they call it propinquity, where you get to know someone, you get to get to know their soul and what their drives are and what makes them tick and all of that. And then it was, in a second, it was like shut down because he wasn't good looking, or good looking according to her standards. So it's not really surprising to me. It's like yet another black pill. It's not really anything, like, you're not blowing my mind. It is what
it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now let me ask you something. I don't know what your experiences are like in other countries. You're in London, so you meet all walks of life. Do you find it to becoming a problem in other nations, like, let's say, other parts of Europe, maybe in Australia? I won't even go there because that's a dumpster fire when it comes to men-women relations. Do you think that this is going to be a cultural phenomenon in other parts of the globe, like in Asia, subcontinent Asia, perhaps even parts of Africa, if they have decent enough connections and phones?
Yeah, this is going worldwide. This is going probably like the most rural areas might be slightly unaffected, not unaffected, less affected. So, like some rural village in what's a rural place in America? I don't know.
West Virginia, that would be the most rural.
Oh yeah, West Virginia. You know, some farm where you have to drive like 5 miles just to get to the nearest store, or
Petrol station.
yeah, or some village in Africa or Iraq, or somewhere. Yeah, they might hold steadfast slightly to, you know, just find a good man. Like the dad will be like, just find a good man, and the daughter will be like, okay, yeah, I found a good man. He's not the best, but I value what he brings to the table, that kind of thing. But outside of those situations, like it's just going to be like the majority of men are just incel, like, or at least if not incel, then near cell is what I call it. Is where it's where you're like where you're just on the borderline of a woman's threshold for not attractiveness, acceptability. And you get like a lay here and there. Maybe you get like a fat woman here. You get a mentally ill woman there. You go 4 years without anything, then next woman
like a camel.
Yeah, like the humps of a camel.
Yeah.
So maybe you get like a hot woman. Maybe you get a hot woman in 2017. You get a hot woman, but then like rapidly downhill from there. Then you're scraping the bottom of the barrel for the next 3 years, and then maybe an okay woman, but it doesn't last. And then back down you go, scraping the bottom of the barrel, and then scraping the bottom, then no woman. So it's going to be like a patchy mismatch kind of dating experience. So yeah, that's the reality for men. And the thing is, the one of the things I need to make clear for men is that this isn't like, we haven't reached the end of where this goes. Like, this isn't like, okay, 2021, what are we, like 12th of what is it, June,
yeah,
June, 12th of June, this is as bad as it gets. No, this is, we're on a journey. We're on the road to where it gets. We're on the road to how bad it gets. So this isn't the worst of it. Where it ends up, we don't know. Nobody knows. It's going to get a hell of a lot worse than it is now. So don't think this is it. Don't think like, 12th of June 2021. It's this bad, but I can make my I see the I see where
you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I see where things have gotten, and I can make peace with it, and I can make adjustments based on what I know the dating market is like today. But no, the dating market is ever changing. It's getting ever increasingly worse. So this is not the worst of it. Don't think we've hit the bottom of the ocean. We're still on our way down. We are still on our way down. So like, who knows where we're gonna go?
Well, I when COVID first hit, the first live stream I did when everybody was on lockdown, it was called Black Pill Revelations. And I made a point that, and in hindsight, obviously I was wrong, is that the lockdowns might end the clown world. It might be a great reset socially for us. So if everyone loses their job, if people get their homes foreclosed on, it becomes a level playing field. But unfortunately, what the powers that being, the ruling class, whatever you might want to call them, they've decided to go in the complete opposite direction and make things much worse. So as soon as the lockdown happened, they decided to pump the equities market, keep a lot of these corporations afloat, continue to hire mostly women for these make-believe positions, administrators to marketing, some other type of, social good, non-for-profit foundations, more people getting hired by the government, the largest of them, the bureaucracy. Men are getting shoved down even further, because if there was some type of reset, a black swan moment, perhaps a war, famine, again, economy crash, women would have to look at men and say, hey, are you going to fix this mess? Unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. And where we are right now is basically what you're saying. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. This is going to get worse. And I can tell you right now, and, I've been trying to stay away from the black pill, but from what I see with women, oh no, this is going down. You're going to have a box wine revolution. You're going to have women over the age of 35 angry they don't have children, angry they don't own anything, angry that they're workaholics, and they're going against their own biology. And basically the social engineers like that they're pushing men down, they're making them more disposable, they're making them not wanted. And with women, they're being put up onto a pedestal where they have to do all these type of things on top of being a woman. So basically they're taking two roles. They're taking the men's role and they're taking the feminine role. And unfortunately, the feminine role is going on the wayside, and they're becoming far more psychopathic.
Oh yeah, definitely. That reminds me of the articles you had to speak about. Yeah,
Which one did you like?
I got to the first article where it was from Roosh V.
Yes, who is a former PUA, and when it comes to Roosh V, he decided that PUAism was just not the way. I mean, if guys like you exist, and more guys like you exist, he's realized he can't push, he can't be a PUA shill anymore. So he's completely changed his whole foundation, his concept, his mantra, to becoming somewhat of a conspiratorium. And he's now a goody-goody where he's seen Christ.
Sure about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know how true he is about it.
I don't know if did he renounce the PUA stuff because he had like a awakening and a conscious,
he took a red pill.
This stuff doesn't work anymore, or was it just because it wasn't working and he thought, or did he just was this like an organic thing where he just
I don't think so. I don't think so whatsoever. That's my personal opinion on Rushvi. I personally don't really like him. I think him to be very self-indulgent and quite full of himself. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of his. I don't know how much you follow him, but he had Dr. E. Michael Jones on his show. He did a show with Dr. E. Michael Jones. And Dr. E. Michael Jones, he's a very Catholic person. He talks about the sexual revolution, on why PUAism is bad, etc., etc. And from there, he changed his whole concept and what he's about, and became some type of, again, this conspiratorium. He's kind of behind the eight ball when it comes to it, which is kind of funny because a lot of the things that he talks about, I've known about for more than a decade. So that's just my 2 cents. So his article is 6 signs that 6 signs that a woman is in rebellion. I'll be sure to put it in the show notes. What did you find so revealing about it? Maybe we can get lost in the weeds on it.
It seems like he is of the opinion traditionalism and Christianity for women. He still wants to bang women, or I think that's where he's coming from. I had like a brief browse of this before the video began, because you posted it like a few minutes ago. She rejects the nature natural state of her body. I don't think I disagree with like some of his takes that, women with like tattoos are probably not, but that I don't know if that's just a personal taste with me.
Well, I think it's
Going
I call it thoughtism. I think he's more focused on the hypergamous thought, where if women, are obsessed with their image, the vanity, the whole tattoo thing. I mean, we could get into that in a moment. We'll go through these one by one, but let's just hypothetically say these women get a boob job or lip injections or cover themselves in tattoos.
Yeah.
It's in the realm of the image. So she's selling her body. She's selling the physical. She's not selling her her ability to hold a conversation, her ability to, let's say, manipulate men. Go on, I'm listening.
I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I don't think women have ever sold themselves on their intellect and their ability to hold a conversation and how much they know about nuclear physics. They've always worn makeup. They've always adorned themselves with artificial things to make them look more attractive to the eye. So I guess technically this could be seen as like an extension of that, like boob jobs and tattoos, but I feel like it's a bit more of a perversion of the adorning thing, because adorning, a woman puts makeup on, she ties her hair up in a different way, she loses weight, fine, cool, that's still her. But like tattoos, it feels like she's buying into the male notion of changing your looks or adorning yourself. So I don't know, I think it's gone a bit astray. And I don't know if I like muscles on women. Let me be honest. I don't like muscles on women.
Me neither.
Don't. Let me be honest. I was gonna be a bit like subtle, but no, I don't like muscles on women. Muscles on women, no. I don't even like.
How many women go to the gym and try to get muscles now and do? I saw a group of girls bench pressing. I'm like, what are you doing? Bench pressing?
I hope. I don't. I sincerely don't hope the barbell falls on their neck, because no, I really don't. But yeah, that is gross. Sorry, but the thing is, that's a good thing for women, because we're not asking them to get a six pack and become broad shouldered and
it's
have
like, as if
like
they're competing
muscles. We're
with
not
men.
asking for that. We're saying, don't eat too much Pizza Hut per week. That's probably like the main stipulation we put upon women. Try not to, if you're like, okay, you can, if you're slim, okay, go ahead, Pizza Hut. But if you're like 300 pounds, slow down on the Domino's pizza. That's probably the that's probably as authoritarian is the word. I think that's as critical as we get about women's looks. Like, we're just like, don't be too fat. The rest is basically if we like you or not. But yeah, we men don't really have these stipulations about women having to put a certain amount of muscle on or to get a certain number of tattoos. Like, we just don't care about women being artificially attractive. We like them for what they are.
Natural state. Being somewhat natural.
Yeah.
Well, I'll build upon what you said, and there's two ways of looking at this. One is, I think a lot of it is, again, Hollywood, where you see the sex icon, where she's got to have a fat ass. She got to have a great ass. Well, a lot of guys don't like big asses. I mean, if you
don't
got
the Kardashian kind of ass. That's a bit too much. Like,
right.
put it this way: an ass that is doesn't that has some delineation or separation from the back, so I know it's not her back. That's about enough. Like a little bit of it sticks out a little bit. That's enough. I don't need some kind of like the Kardashian fake booty. Just looks so. It looks ridiculous. It looks artificial. It looks cringe. It looks
you don't like a bowl of cottage cheese?
no way. No way.
You see that's what the media promotes, though. So when you're talking about the Kardashians, that's what women see, and that's what they, measure themselves up to. Not only that, you look at the Kardashians, and they're dumb as a fucking rock.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You see, you know.
Again, women are how to phrase it? Women are have this need to change themselves according to social consensus. So
correct.
Like if the TV shows they watch, there are women with fake booties and fake breasts and fake makeup, 10 tons of makeup on. They'll be like, well, I don't look like her. I should look like her. Yeah. She's famous. I'm not famous. I should look like her. And they just like do this weird logical jump where they feel like they need to mimic that stupid look and stupid behavior. So yeah, a lot of like going back to what we've been saying. A lot of women, the change in women's behavior is influenced by what they see, what they're exposed to, what peer pressure is telling them to do, what the media is telling them to do. Because I want to say, like, probably the most blue pill thing I will say on this video. Mm-hmm. Women, in the absence of these, I'm going to say it, toxic, as regard, like, according to men, according to like raising stable families with men, mm-hmm. Women with absent these toxic influences are pretty easy to get along with somewhat if they're not being fed this garbage that you need Chad, you deserve Chad, here's Chad, look at Chad, why don't you have a Chad, look at all these men you could be sleeping with, why aren't you embracing your sexuality, why aren't you what's the term they use? Why aren't you finding yourself? Absent that influence, women can be, let me say, pretty easy to get along with. You see it in, like, if you look at like old, I guess if you have like old grandparents who are still mm-hmm. alive,
yep.
from the era, or if you look at like the depiction in media, women are like, I don't want to say like subservient, like, but women are like pretty loving and
they're looking to please. They're social. Yeah, they're looking to
and the thing is, it's not just one way. It's not like, hey, this woman pleases me, bang her, go to sleep, then go back to the ranch. The man is like, it's like a feedback loop. So the man's like, oh, she loves me, so I'm gonna gift her the best night of her life. I'm gonna make sure she's loved. I'm gonna make sure she's
taken care of.
I'm gonna make sure the household is working functionally. Like, so, yeah, but men have been like disenfranchised and not able to do that. So I guess our view of women has come down because like we don't we all we like the all we have the view we have of women is what they reject us. They like Kardashians. They like shopping. They're
Materialism, consumerism.
they're materialists. They act like bitches at the gym. They don't want us to look. They don't want us to look at them on the train. Like we're just kind of.
Where did this come from?
Even this image of women, this negative image of women. So there's kind of no wonder why men are kind of have this animosity towards women.
I totally agree with you. One point I want to say is that now that their lives are dedicated to social media, they lose their linguistics of the native population. So when I now meet an Australian woman who's, let's say, 25 years old, she doesn't have much of an accent anymore. Well, why is that? Well, she's not leaving her house. Her life revolves around social media. So she picks up cues, she picks up the linguistics of whoever it is she's listening to. So that's something I've noticed, and that's been quite prevalent with a lot of native women in the Anglosphere.
Oh yes. This happens on both sides. Yeah, it happens on the incel side and on the women's side. So you think that women
Can I just interject here? You sound British as fuck, dude.
Well, because I am.
That's right. You sound like straight up from London, and I can pick up the different dialects. Like I know my friend from Sheffield, I know my friend from Oxford. They sound totally different, and you sound completely different from the two of them.
Yeah, because I'm from London. The UK has way more accents than the US. Don't get it twisted. We've got like at least, I want to say like 40 accents, and in the small like land mass, that's a lot. Like you travel a few miles, that's a different accent.
Yep.
In the US, you travel like all around and it's pretty similar.
Oh,
anyway,
excuse me. Who the fuck do you think you're talking to here?
What you talking to? Who you talking to?
There you go. Yeah, you got it, man.
Hey, bada bing, bada boom. Chicago Town Pizza. Hey. Where are we?
We're talking about women's dialect.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There is this notion that now it's not a completely foregone conclusion, but there is this notion that women in the West act a certain way because of culture, but women in the East, say like Lithuania, Pakistan, somewhere, they act a completely different way. Now, they do act slightly differently. They're not as exposed to Western media and Western culture, but a lot of women in like Poland, a lot of women in Germany, a lot of women in France, a lot of women in Portugal, Brazil, Uruguay, they're watching Western media. They're watching Kardashians, they're watching Disney, they're watching Disney Channel. So the culture is changing worldwide. Not so fast in those non-English speaking countries, but there is like a inroad from Hollywood into their culture.
Yep.
To give them an inkling or give them give them an update on where the rest of the world is. And so you see this where
what's America doing?
what's America doing? What's Australia doing? What's the Anglosphere doing? And you you get these different countries like Estonia, Russia, who they watch Western media, so they're influenced by Western culture, which means they have the same the women have the same or similar expectations as a woman raised in the West. So
they thrive for that. Let me interject here. They're thriving because that's what they feel is what one is entitled to, and two, it's the end all, the be all. Like that's what's on the other side of the hill. So that's what they're striving for. Do you think it's part and parcel because people in poor countries kind of have this fetishization of consumerism and materialism? So let's say if you're a relatively poor person, sure, you're retaining your own natural culture, your religion, your family values, your local bonds, but do you think subconsciously and consciously for that matter that they want consumerism and they want to be part of the consumption class of the neoliberal the neoliberal death machine, as I like to call it?
Well, let's just be honest. Women like to be part of the in-group. Like a man is far more likely to be, I forgot.
Rebellious, going his own way.
Like a maverick, like a rebellious kind of. I'm going my own way. I'm doing my own thing. I put my possessions on my shoulder on a stick, and I'm just gonna walk away from society and do my own thing.
Go monk.
Go my own way. But a woman is more likely to be, well, what is everyone else doing? Okay, I'm gonna follow the lead because I can't build anything. I can't protect myself.
Pride Month.
So, yeah.
And I'll tell you,
Sorry?
it's Pride Month. I'm saying LGBT. They grab it. Yeah. Right.
So yeah, women are more likely to want to follow the herd. And so, so of course, you have this effect where women are more likely to go along with what they hear, what they see, what they're fed than men. So gradually every woman is going to act like the average Californian woman, the average London woman, the average Berlinian woman.
Right.
Everyone is like, okay, there might be slight differences. You may get rural areas where like women aren't so influenced, but for the most part, like in Iran, I think a few years ago, women got the right to drive. So and I don't tell me that the right to drive for women was driven by like, hey, these Islamic people just thought that Islam was just a bit too oppressive. It was just a bit too oppressive for women. No, they were influenced by Western culture.
Yep.
They thought, okay, we'll give a little bit of ground. And so the ground is being given worldwide.
Yep.
So women are going to act the same way worldwide.
I always say that if you're already tolerating something, you're already lost. And I think a lot of men globally at this point, because of the lack of external threats, have somewhat given up, let's say, and become regressive to just tolerating women's behavior, like the nag. We know what the Western wench is like. We know what the nag is like. So for what you're talking about in Iran, like, well, where did they get the idea that it's a good idea to drive? So men obviously fell onto the wayside, and this idea of conserving is an utter failure and an utter joke. What exactly are you trying to conserve? So the window. it's blown wide open. So you already got the ball rolling as far as Iran goes, and sure enough, there'll be pride in Tehran.
The thing is, Iran is weird because Iran and India is weird because they have this idea where being gay is like you get thrown off a building, it's a sin, it's disgusting. But being trans is acceptable. So seriously, you look it up. I saw some article just before the show, like someone I was reading some Twitter post. You know the posts they put on the right side of Twitter where it's like what's trending now. So I looked at some article. It said Iran is acceptable accepting of trans but not gays. I think it comes from this idea. I don't know where it comes from, but in my mind.
Okay, go on. So what I want before you go any further, do you think it's that men are so sexually repressed in, like, say, Pakistan and Iran, that men need some type of sexual outlet, and they'll tolerate the tranny because it at least looks like a woman? Do you think maybe that might be part of the reason?
It's definitely couched in the female form or something close to it being more acceptable. The idea of a woman, the notion, the approximation, the coming near to a woman being somewhat acceptable versus just some man who acts like a bit effeminate, which is kind of gross to them. So I think I think
basically act like a woman and we tolerate you.
Sorry, mankind has this repulsion to men. Like mankind has this repulsion to ugly men getting laid, ugly men getting a slim, young, attractive woman, ugly men ascending in, like, financially. Like, it seems like a biological thing where we just hate ugly men. Like, if you look at like articles of like a female teacher, and she's like she's found guilty of keeping 14-year-old boys in detention and giving them blowjobs. Like,
yeah,
like you go scroll through that news article, look at the comments, and then like the first comment will be like, "Oh, this is bad." The next like 15 comments will be like, "I wish my teacher would have given me a blowjob."
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So there's nothing wrong.
I wish I was him. Where was that teacher when I was?
Where was that when I was in high school? Like, right. All of that stuff, yeah. Because we value women and we think women's sexuality is a blessing, no matter where it comes from, no matter when it happens, to whom it happens, we think is a blessing. But put that same article again, but just replace the gender, like a man, and you go through the comments, and it's like, this man should be like, they should pour liquid cement into his nostrils and then leave him in the midday sun for it to go hard. Like, he should be like, he should have his dick cut off and shoved into his mouth. Like, it's a completely different reaction, and it's not because the action was different. It's because the beneficiary, quote unquote, was a male. The beneficiary, the man who benefited from it, was a male. Usually it's worse if he's an ugly male. If he's an ugly male, it's even worse. How dare an ugly male be sexually gratified? Like it's like the worst thing that can happen. So yeah, we have this reaction to women doing this stuff where hey, this the sexually abused 14-year-old boy who got sexually abused by a 30-year-old woman. Hey, he's ahead of the class now. He's in the lead. He's the king among his class. But that same that same thing happening, just flipping the genders. It's like, oh, a poor girl. She's 14. She's just a baby. She just stepped out of her Pampers. How dare this piece of shit.
And he's like 17 or 18.
Yeah, exactly. So we just hate men having sexuality, number one. We hate ugly men having sexuality even more.
Well, it's not even discussed. Like the overtone wisdom about what men find attractive and what what society should strive for. Like the focus on women's sexuality and the rejection of men's sexuality is something that's it's unprofound. It's something that's relatively new. Maybe the past 30, 40, you want to push it, say 50 years, really since the sexual revolution, where we reject men's sexuality.
Yeah, we hate men's sexuality. Obviously, like it's just.
Well, going by what you're saying, recently in New York City, I know this is already a law in France, is that they criminalize men seeking prostitutes, but never the prostitute.
Oh, the Nordic law. Yeah, that's that's
it's an absolute inversion.
I wish I were able to be surprised by that stuff, but that's like just that's normal.
It goes part and parcel with what's happening.
Yeah, so it's a Nordic. They call it the Nordic model, where they say that it's because they don't want to criminalize the woman offering the sex because she may be forced into prostitution, whereas trafficked, whereas the man buying the sex, he knows exactly what he's doing. But isn't this infantilizing women who choose to be prostitutes? Like you're basically saying that any woman who offers her pussy for money, she was forced into it, which is not the truth. A lot of women like being prostitutes. A lot of women, I've heard women say that they prefer it to a 9-to-5 job because they could do like 9 to 1 and then they have the whole day free. So this is, again, it's just a society that hates men. I don't know how else to say it. Society hates men. It's not just women who hate men, by the way. Men hate men. So you've got this situation where women have an in-group preference. They prefer women. And men have an out-group preference where they prefer women. So nobody likes men. Nobody prefers men. Nobody's really standing up for men. Nobody's standing up for men's rights or the best interests of men. So we're fucked. We're screwed. Like, I guess the only thing men get that's good is like the how do I describe it? The accidental rights that come our way. So like
we get to eat for now. We get to eat and there's no war.
Yeah. But say you're washing a car, right? You're washing like the front of the car, the windscreen, the top of the car, the hood, the whatever. say you neglect certain parts of the car, like you neglect the wheels, for instance, like you're just doing it in a rush. You just rush. You wash the windows, the front of the car, the back of the car doors. You neglect the windows. Um, sorry, you wash the windows. You neglect the wheels. So the wheels will get washed a little bit, but not really well. That's the rights that men get. We get like the accidental rights, like the accidental human rights, like try not to get stabbed, try not to get murdered. We get those rights, but the rest of it, it's not really for us.
Yeah, I would definitely attest to that. It seems that we're just a cog in the wheel, and it's basically us serving women and whatever it is they're wanting. I remember having Paul Proteus on maybe like 3 years ago. He sadly passed away at the end of 2020, and when I did a chat with him, he made a point.
Wait, stop. Who?
Paul Proteus.
I know that name.
He's a black guy that was from Canada, from Western Canada.
Okay, sorry, I was thinking of someone else.
If you run him through YouTube or a Google search, he'll be sure to pop up in some of his content. But he made a point. Have you noticed that men's cars are getting smaller and women's cars are getting bigger? And as
yeah,
oh, I like that. That was good.
Yeah, sorry, hats off to him, whoever he is. Anyway, back to you.
He made a point. Have you noticed that men's cars are getting smaller and women's cars are getting bigger, and how as we slide economically, women seem to be grasping the past cornucopia, and I do see a correlation as the wealth gap becomes larger between the haves and have-nots. Women are going to become far more hypergamous. And there's this notion within the red pill that I disagree with, that all women are just going to come running back to men because they're broke, and and they're just they're going to have to settle down and make babies and all these other type of conservative tropes that I certainly don't agree with. If you see Russia and what Russia's been going through since the fall of the Soviet Union, how have women acted in Russia? What are men's rights, and how are men's physical and mental health in the Eastern and former Soviet bloc? Well, it's an outright fucking shit show. It's a disaster. The highest rate of abortion is in Russia. The highest rate of alcoholism is in Russia. The highest rate of suicide. Go on.
Really? The highest rate of abortion?
Yep.
Seriously?
Absolutely.
I thought it was black women in Chicago or something.
Now, if you break it up through countries, I mean, probably they probably lump Black Americans as all of America. I mean, if you probably separate African Americans from white Americans, there might be some, the percentages might be equal to Russia. Yeah. But I'm talking about countries as a whole. You'll see that Russia is by far the highest, and also male suicide rate's the highest in Russia. So and my personal opinion, the most hypergamous and most, I want to say, masculine traits, aggressiveness, seem to be, and again, this is my humble opinion, it tends to be women from Russia, where I'm like, God damn it, I never wanted to beat a woman so bad in my life. Was with a woman from Russia. Yeah, that's brutal, dude.
I can join you. Let's tag team this.
Get the Billy Club. So
you're saying that women in Russia are aborting their babies. Is it because this is just like me thinking off the cuff right here? Mm-hmm. Is it because Russia is caught between a slight female independence where women don't want to settle down with a man, but they're having a lot of sex and getting pregnant? So maybe they think, oh yeah, I want to bang this guy, I want to have sex with this guy. Oh, this guy's hot. Look at this guy's cheekbones. Look at this guy's Ramus. Not in those terms, but their brain is thinking that. And then they're like, okay, this guy isn't long term. I don't know his last name. I don't know where he lives. Let me abort this baby. So they're caught between the freedom of being able to have sex with whoever they want, but lacking the traditionalism of this guy is sticking around. So maybe that's where they're thinking abortion is the right way to go.
I think it's the hypergamous factor, and if they go sleep around and they get knocked up, they probably are not. I would highly doubt Russian men are all that keen on using condoms. And let's be real, and this is something that Bruce V always brings up: the Dubai porta potty. Well, the overwhelming majority of women that engage in that behavior happen to come from the Soviet Eastern European bloc. So I just find them to be far more they're more emotionally detached, like something that you would see in far Asia with Chinese and Japanese women. It's that Asian influence. Russia really isn't Europe. I never considered them really European. They're always kind of on the outskirts. They're white, but they're kind of not white,
Yeah. Let me just go through this article. So she idolizes herself. So I don't think we need to expand upon this because I think we've done that enough, that women get such validation from men that it just basically makes them so egotistical that it's hard to make them a wife, if just to put it bluntly. Like if you got a girl who she's on social media, you managed to get a conversation with her, how are you any competition with the validation she gets online? So you just say, hey, I love you. No, sorry. You say, hey, I like you. Let's go out. Let's go get some coffee. That's nothing compared to 500 men saying, hey, baby, you look at that ass or some shit.
I'll send you $50. I'll send you $50 if you show me.
Is that exactly? Or even worse? It's like, let me Venmo you $50. Like, so men really can't compete. Like, we've priced each other, and women have priced themselves out of the dating market. So
it's the commodification of the relationship.
Yeah. So, why would a woman? I could ask myself the same question. If I were a woman, unless I were like a thinking, smart woman, like let's just roll that out because there aren't many of them. There are few and far between. If I were an average woman, why would I want one 5 out of 10 guy to give me validation when I could get it from like thousands of men plus donations? So women are being incentivized to be less, I don't know, to be more maladaptive, to be less family focused, to be less relationship oriented. It's just
they're more about their sexual impulse.
Show. It is a complete shit show.
I think a lot of men are engaging in this type of behavior, and they're focusing more on women when they should really be focusing on themselves and how they're going to, build upon their well-being and should be focusing on where they're going to be in 10, 15, 20 years versus the here and now, the constant present, the limited time horizon where they're just looking to watch the next porno, get the next video game, when they should be really honing in on their abilities and fine-tuning their quirks and their weak points.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to build upon something about this part here. This is something that I've been toying with as of late with some of my readings. I do think that there is a correlation between the lack of opportunities, the lack of having the ability to buy certain goods, and being part of the bourgeoisie, the proletariat, joining the middle class. In the past, in the 50s, 60s, and upwards to, let's say, the early 90s, women would identify and show off their products. They would be proud of the appliances they bought. They'd be proud of the new vacuum cleaner. They would be proud of their granite coffee table. They'd be happy about, the car that they purchased, et cetera, et cetera. Since those things are not available as they used to be, the cornucopia of the past, as we enter the twilight of abundance, women now revert it to themselves, where they buy the most expensive pocketbook, they buy the most expensive makeup, they go out to the hair salon and drop like $150, $200 on their hair. So they're focused more about the image versus, again, what it is they've purchased in their house.
Isn't this like doesn't this speak to women's biology, that women used, like, hey, I bought a new I don't know, I bought a new, what do women
bookcase.
buy? Curtain bookcase. I bought a new bookcase. Look at me. Like, they did that back in 1995, 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't the fact that now they would spend that same money on like a boob job or
exactly 100%? Yes.
Isn't that a indication that women have that same need, but now they're just channeling it more egotistically? Like,
yes.
They had that same need to get attention, but now they've been afforded the ability to be more egotistic about it. So has anything really changed except their ability to make it more about themselves?
Yeah, it's just a redefinition of women's attention seeking. So now it's more narcissistic, and I don't know if England's always had that problem, but especially in the United States, America has always been somewhat narcissistic, and I think there's a couple of reasons why for that is. I'm not going to get into the historical revisionism of it, but it's certainly been accelerated because a lot of the people under the age of 35 are unable to achieve that middle class lifestyle. So if women start redirecting their attention towards themselves and what they're about, and their the physical needs versus the mental needs, you're accelerating the narcissism aspect of American culture, let us say. So
female narcissism is like
but again, this is Anglosphere problem. I can't imagine a woman from fucking Nigeria being narcissistic. I'm sure there's outliers, obviously, but the average 28-year-old woman from Nigeria living in the suburbs of Lagos, I highly doubt she gives a flying fuck about the latest iPhone and shit. And it's more about survival.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say maybe even it has skewed money a bit more more prevalent. So like maybe the fact that in the West money, looks, status has become more prevalent has probably made money and status become more prevalent in Eastern or third world countries, because obviously looks okay, you're good looking in like Nigeria, you look good looking in Bolivia, But that's not going to pay any bills. That's not going to. That's not good. That's not going to get water to your city or village.
Right.
But yeah, but having like a status, having money, that might do it. So maybe the revolution we're under, the LMS, looks, money, status revolution we're under, might have implications in second, third world countries for money maxing and status maxing. Not so much looks maxing, or maybe looks maxing as well, but
Brazil, Dominican
it may have
Republic, those are definitely a
influenced
problem.
looks. It may have influenced money as well, because let's go on a thought experiment. You're in Brazil in 2021. You're a female you're a woman in Brazil. You've seen some Kardashian episodes, you've seen some YouTube media, but you're not going to be like, okay, I need Chad. You'll be like, well, I'm open to Chad, but this culture has opened me to a rich guy, a guy with money. It has kind of, I don't know. It's
It's a compounding effect.
It's
now
kind of
because
propelled money and status into women's mind more concretely, because they're actually seeing the benefits of culture, of money and status, whereas before, like a woman in Brazil in the 1996, she thought, oh yeah, a guy from America to propose to me and give me a ring, and that's great, but she doesn't really have like a visual understanding of what that will entail. But if now transport her now to 2021, she's watching Kardashians. She's seeing what the impact of a man with with money and status will entail. So now she's like, her vivid dreams are more deeper. So she's like, okay, maybe like a man with money and status, I can actually envision what that will entail. So now I want it even more.
Well, it's funny you say that. I mentioned this on a couple of live streams ago. My best friend and his wife came to visit me since I moved from New York, and his wife is from Brazil. She's about 37, 38. She's in her older 30s. And my mother asked her, what made you come to the United States? Like, what was your drive to come here and marry an American? And she said Disney.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. So women and men are just, fundamentally different. So very few men would say, oh, I came to the US because of Disney, or because some woman was...
No, it's usually economic or thrill-seeking.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we're just fundamentally different. So
I didn't move to Cambodia for job opportunity. I mean, a little bit of that because it's a developing country or whatever, but it was more about, history. It was about, you only live once, you want to make the best of what it's worth. You don't want to be a bug man eating cricket tiki masala,
Definitely.
It's 2030. It's 2030, you'll own nothing.
My eyes are stinging me, so I'm going to try and scroll as best I can through this.
Yeah, we'll do just 10 more minutes more. No worries, man.
Yeah. Could you scroll through the article, because I'm blind at the moment. I can't see.
She has completely divorced sex from reproduction.
Oh yeah. Yeah, basically the whole, what's it called? Like the whole woke woman, the soy leftist woman. Yeah,
well,
she's.
Where do you? This we can we can somewhat end it on this now, because this kind of, what I want to state kind of wraps up the rest of this article. With the declining birth rate of, mostly the people in the West, the white people as a whole, with the whole immigration situation, the driving down of wages, which I think is really a big crux on why there's so many porous borders. I think it's supposed to be 2 million refugees entering the U.S. a year now under the Biden administration. Where do you see the Anglosphere going forward? I mean, obviously we know it's going to get worse, but do you think there's going to be some type of a breaking point, or do you find COVID, again, being an accelerant, and we're just going to keep going down this path, and there won't be any type of black swan event that a lot of people are cheering for? What's your take on that? And I know you're in England. I don't know what the situation really is over there, because, again, I get news feeds. They always kind of highlight the negatives and blow it out of proportion, when in fact it might not be nearly as bad as the media portrays. What's your 2 cents on that?
As a black man who frequents white nationalist websites, I'm a subscriber to various white nationalist websites and channels. I think a lot of it is like raging inside your own bedroom, kind of like I envision white nationalists as like in their own bedroom, like breaking shelves and
putting holes through walls.
Yeah, punching holes through walls, and then like nothing happens, like nothing is actually solved, or they haven't furthered their movement or ideology whatsoever outside of posting some memes on 4chan. So nothing is really going to change. They're not on the side of winning anything, because the Overton window is moving against them. So yeah, sure, you've got like a few more men, usually incel men, usually men who aren't preoccupied with fucking, that they have enough time to, look at demographics and stuff like 1315, all kinds of shit.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So they're like, they've got enough free time to swallow this stuff, but the average man doesn't really give a shit, or the like politics is moving further to the left, so no one is really holding back on this stuff. No one's really pushing back against this like hardcore leftist movement. So basically a bunch of men who are like have swastikas and left national socialist ideology, but they have no real outlook or no channel. The thing is, what really makes me is interesting about this is that they need white women to be on their side. So I've browsed Stormfront like regularly, and they're like, "Oh, we need to get together. When are we going to get angry? When are we going to
right?
When are we going to stop this? Like, it's all this kind of cope, like this
rah
Nordic throwback. Like, when are we going to be like
Vikings,
Nordic god? Yeah, it's all
Hitler
cope.
was right.
Yeah, all of that. 1488. They're nothing without their own white women. Their own white women need to offer up their vaginas to fight back against diversity and all this stuff. But if without white women offering white children, my white babies, it's just a bunch of white men being angry and butthurt and not really solving anything, not really achieving anything. So yeah, they need, as much as a few white nationalists are coming to the conclusion that white women are leftists, and white women hold up the refugees welcome signs, and white women vote leftist policies that favor immigration. What white women are kind of the enemy within.
Yep.
They kind of have to admit that white women also, as well as being the enemy within, they're also the savior of their whole movement. So they're in this weird cognitive dissonance that's really
I totally agree
entertaining
with
to
you,
watch.
and that
It's really entertaining.
that's yeah. It is entertaining to watch, and I try to reach out to some of these guys, and when I tell them that I do MGTOW, they think I'm the enemy. Well, you're part of the problem. I'm like, well, you don't really have much solutions, you dumb fuck. It's like, what do you have? You're revisiting history,
Exactly. They
twisting
don't
the
have like
narrative.
their solution is oh, we just deport the non-whites. We just kick them out. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is not 1930. You need to come up with like a few steps between that, like your end goal and where we are now. You need a few steps between that. You can't be like, oh, we just gas the non-whites or whatever. Like
But they
it's
don't seem to acknowledge the problem within their own race with their women. They
Yeah,
don't they,
their
they,
own
they don't
women are the
acknowledge that.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them fail to recognize that their own women are the problem. White women choosing careers, choosing not to have 3 to 4 to 5 children, women choosing not to settle down with a man because his looks aren't good enough. White women choosing um, to have a career because the men available to them are like merely 5 out of 10. That is their biggest issue. And they say stuff about the government's enforced immigration because the population shortfall.
Mhm.
Well, the shortfall is because white women don't want to be tied to a kitchen and have like 4 or 5
They want to
children.
travel. They want to go
They
to
want to
Morocco
travel.
and get their
They want to
heads ripped.
find themselves.
Right.
So yeah, so it's really interesting that some of them, not all of them, they fail to acknowledge that the enemy, quote unquote enemy, is their own women who fail to, reproduce and all that kind of stuff. So
Or adhere to
yeah,
some type of traditionalism.
yeah. So yeah, and then yeah, they have this idea of traditionalism as if it's coming back, like it's not in the near future. Sorry.
So the
It's
situation is going to get much worse, is from what you're telling me.
like I said, we haven't reached the bottom of the ocean yet.
Well,
We're not
my,
even
my
close.
my concern is, and this is a point that I always bring up, is that no society can withstand the breakup of the family. I mean, that's never been done before. Usually, when I engage in this type of rhetoric or these talking points to a normie con, they'll bring up something from 3,000 years ago where they have no knowledge or any references. They're kind of spewing some fucking article they read, off of NPR or the New York Times. I really truly believe that once we broach more singles than married couple, and there's more single moms and more men that are sexually frustrated, never got laid, virgins until their 30s, coupled with the sexual restraints where there's no way for you to have a sexual outlet other than going with a tranny or going gay. I don't see how it's gonna. Again, the idea that we're gonna this managing the decline on the macro, I can't see how they're gonna keep this illusion going where they keep papering over a lot of these problems with, like, stimulus, UBI, again, the never-ending money printer go burr. So my crux of my argument is it's going to eventually collapse. And I originally didn't think something like COVID would happen. I thought it was just going to keep going in the direction it was going prior to COVID, where we might catch there might be a few dead cat bounces here and there where you get someone like Trump or populists like Bolsonaro or Tony Abbott in Australia. But those are just, stopgaps from where you're going to. And if we see that broach between singles and married, you're going to start seeing more, social discord and more disharmony, and coupled with the native population not reproducing. You still there?
Hello, yeah, sorry.
No,
Yeah, that was insane. That was like a stream of consciousness. Jeez. I don't even know what to say back to that. That was insane.
What, I'm worried that you'll start at least for the United States, you'll start looking more like Brazil, where you'll start seeing let's say air quote incels start forming like gangs, more street crime, street justice, those type of concepts. I just don't see how where we are right now being something. We're in a bit of a lull stage,
No, I don't think. I think we're safe from incels forming gangs. I think we're, yeah, I think we're a long way from that. So we're good for now.
All right, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time and chatting with me. Let's do it again. That was a lot of fun. It was far more entertaining than I anticipated, and we seem to get on pretty well. Maybe we'll have First on. Three of us can chat, and maybe Sandman will join in the future. So I bid you adieu. You have a splendid night, and we'll keep in touch. Face, thank you so much, always.
Thank you. That was good. Round of applause for me. And for you.
All right, man.
Oh, you get your own one.
Thank you. I'll take a bow.
Okay.
I want to let you know I dressed really well for tonight's show. So.
Okay,
right, man.
Go on webcam. I'm joking. Don't do that.
All right, man. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you. All right, talk to you soon. All right,
cheers. Bye-bye.
Right. Yeah, that was good.
Oh. I think
Hopefully that recorded. Did that record?
Yeah, it did. It's hanging up, so I'll talk to you on Discord.
Some people have a lot of sex, I do not. What does it feel like to fuck? I forgot, it's been a long, long time since I got laid. Some people have a lot of sex, I do not. What does it feel like to fuck? I forgot, it's been a long, long time since I got laid. I'm the only person who ever touches my crotch. It's been a long, long time since I got laid. When I wash my crotch, I only wash it for myself. It's been a long, long time since I got laid. Some people have a lot of sex, I do not. What does it feel like to fuck? I forgot, it's been a long, long time since I got laid. Some people have a lot of sex, I do not. What does it feel like to fuck? I forgot it's been a long, long time since I got laid. It's been years. It's been years. It's been a long, long time since I got laid. It's been years. It's been years. It's been a long, long time since I got laid. Some people have a lot of sex, I do not. What does it feel like to fuck? I forgot it's been a long, long time since I got laid. Some people have a lot of sex, I do not. What does it feel like to fuck? I forgot it's been a long, long time since I got laid.
And that's alright, because masturbation rocks. Go vegan, everybody. Oh boy.